The conference room door clicked shut behind me, sealing in the stale air of recycled regrets. It was a Friday afternoon in Midtown Manhattan, the kind where the sun slants through blinds like accusatory fingers. My boss, Elena, sat across the polished oak table, her fingers drumming a silent rhythm on a manila folder. She'd been my protégé once, wide-eyed and eager, trailing me through late-night strategy sessions with a notebook full of scribbled insights. Now, she couldn't meet my gaze. "Mark," she started, her voice steady but laced with that corporate detachment they'd all mastered. "We've appreciated your contributions over the years. But the board feels it's time for a change. We're offering you the chance to resign gracefully." The HR guy next to her, some kid named Ryan with a fresh MBA glow, nodded like a puppet on strings. "Termination if I didn't play along," he added, as if reading from a script he'd practiced in the mirror. 22 years. That's how long I'd poured my life into Apex Innovations, a tech firm that started as a scrappy startup in a Brooklyn warehouse and ballooned into a Fortune 500 beast after mergers swallowed us whole. I'd been there for the pivot from software consulting to AI-driven analytics, handling everything from client crises at 3 a.m. to negotiating deals that kept the lights on during lean times. Loyalty? I'd bled it. Weekends vanished into code reviews. Holidays blurred into emergency deployments. And for what? A pat on the back. A promise of next quarter's bonus. And now this. Discarded like yesterday's code. I didn't explode. Didn't beg or bargain. That fire had flickered out months ago, smothered by sideline promotions and whispers in hallways. Instead, I leaned back in the chair, the leather creaking under my weight, and let a small smile tug at my lips. "Fine," I said, calm as a still pond. "I resign." Effective upon final reconciliation. They exchanged glances, but no one questioned it. Ryan slid over a form. I signed without flourish, stood, and walked out. The elevator dinged on the way down, each floor a memory slipping away. But as I stepped into the bustling street, horns blaring and pedestrians weaving like code in a loop, I felt the first stir of something sharp. This wasn't the end. It was the ignition. Back in my apartment overlooking the Hudson, the city lights twinkling like distant stars, I powered up my personal laptop. The screen glowed, illuminating the shadows on my face. I'd started the ledger 3 years earlier, not out of spite, but survival. A simple Excel file named Balance Sheet, Personal. Every deferred bonus, every ignored expense report, every equity grant pushed to later. I documented it all. Screenshots of emails, timestamps from HR portals, PDFs of board memos. It wasn't dramatic, it was diligent. Like the systems I'd built for Apex. It was airtight, traceable. The merger with Vertex Tech 2 years back had been my opening. They'd pulled me in to scrub the integration docs, trusting my eye for details. While buried in the legalese, I slipped an Appendix D, resignation protocol, reconciliation mandate. It stipulated that any departure required full settlement of all outstanding compensations, verified against employee-maintained ledgers. Before finalization, legal glossed over it during the frenzy. Mergers are chaos. After all, and it got stamped, embedded in the corporate bylaws. No fanfare, just a quiet anchor in the fine print. Now, with my resignation in play, that clause hummed to life. I didn't send demands or ultimatums. I just archived my work emails over 15,000 threads, exported time logs showing unpaid overtime that could fund a small startup, and mirrored the compliance dashboards I'd architected. Then, a single email to legal, pending reconciliation per Appendix D. Attached, the ledger's summary page. No threats, just facts. I hit send, leaned back, and poured a scotch. The city pulsed outside, unaware. But inside me, the slow build began. They thought I'd fade. They didn't know I'd engineered the fade-proof net. The weekend passed in a haze of quiet preparation. I didn't rage or wallow, I planned. Registered an LLC under a variant of my name, Thompson Advisory Group, in Delaware for tax perks. Reached out to a couple of old clients via personal channels, ones who'd grumbled about Apex's bloated bureaucracy. Interested in streamlined ops? I asked. Casual as coffee. No poaching, just exploration. By Monday, seeds were planted. That's when the ripples hit. My phone buzzed with a text from an old team lead. Hey Mark, dashboards are glitching. Your access revoked. I hadn't touched a thing, but the systems I designed were intertwined with my profile. Equity vesting queues, bonus disbursements, they all looped through a compliance gate I'd coded, one that halted on unresolved reconciliations. Per the clause, my file stayed active until settled, locking cascades downstream. Finance couldn't close quarters. HR couldn't process new hires without clearing legacy holds. By Tuesday, legal looped in. An email from their lead counsel. Terse. Clarify reconciliation terms. I replied measured, quoting the appendix verbatim, attaching ledger excerpts. Silence followed, thick and telling. I imagine the scramble, frantic meetings in glass-walled rooms, fingers pointing at overlooked lines. Meanwhile, I met with those clients over virtual coffee. One, a mid-sized fintech firm. Bit immediately. Your frameworks kept us afloat, they said. Let's rebuild without the red tape. Contracts drafted, ethical as dawn. The pressure mounted slowly, like a storm gathering over the skyline. Whispers from insiders. Board calls extended. CFO pacing. But I stayed the course. Emotions banked. Logic steering. This wasn't vengeance. It was equilibrium. They'd taken years. I'd claim what was mine. And as the days ticked, the damning tension coiled tighter, ready to snap. Midweek brought the first crack in their facade. My inbox lit up with a forwarded chain from a sympathetic ex-colleague. Accidental. Or maybe not. Urgent. System hold on Q2 payouts. The email thread revealed chaos, finance flagging errors, IT scrambling for overrides, legal citing legacy clauses with urgency bordering on panic. Appendix D loomed like a ghost in the machine, tying my unsettled accounts to broader workflows. Bonuses for the exec team? Frozen. New equity grants? Stalled. Even vendor payments hit snags because I'd linked compliance verifications to my unresolved ledger. I didn't gloat. Instead, I focused on my new venture. Thompson Advisory's website went live, clean, professional, no frills. I onboarded that fintech client, diving into their ops with the freedom Apex never allowed. No micromanaging COO. No endless approval chains. Just pure architecture. Redesigning their analytics pipelines. Optimizing for speed and security. It felt like breathing after years underwater. The client raved in our first review call. This is what we needed. Agile. Not anchored. Their referral came swift. Pulling in another from my old network. Back at Apex. The silence broke with a call from their external counsel. A firm voice with a Boston edge. Mr. Thompson. This is Lydia Hart from Klein and Associates. We're handling your transition. Can you elaborate on the reconciliation expectations? I pictured her in a high-rise office. Notes spread like battle plans. I spoke evenly, walking her through the ledger, deferred bonuses from the 2020 pivot, when they'd temporarily withheld to fund the merger, travel reimbursements buried in red tape, retention incentives promised but never vested. All documented. I added, with timestamps and approvals. She paused, the line humming with unspoken calculations. Will review and revert.
Click.
No warmth, no concessions. But I heard the undercurrent, the dawning realization that this wasn't a bluff. The clause was ironclad, baked into their bylaws, enforceable in New York courts. Any attempt to bypass? Audit nightmares. Potential SEC flags on compensation disclosures. As days blurred, emotions simmered beneath my calm exterior. Nights, I'd stare at the river. Memories flooding, the all-nighters that saved deals. The promotions I trained others for, only to watch them climb while I stalled. Betrayal stung, not sharp but deep, like a slow poison.
Yet,
I channeled it into action. Signed another client, a healthcare analytics startup frustrated with Apex's delays. We mapped their data flows over late calls, laughter mixing with strategy, the human element I'd missed. By week's end, Apex's internal storm escalated. A leaked memo, via that same contact, detailed operational disruptions tied to unresolved personnel matters. Board members were looped in, fingers pointing at who missed the clause during merger due diligence. Elena, my former boss, must have felt the heat, her rise built on foundations I'd laid. But I didn't reach out.
let the system speak.
The buildup intensified. A quiet roar in my chest. Phone silent. But I knew they were reeling.
Then,
A breakthrough. My first advisory payout cleared. Modest but mine. Freedom tasted sharp, edged with anticipation. What would break first, their pride? Or their protocols? The following Monday, the dams strained further. IT tried a workaround, but the code I'd embedded, modular, resilient, looped back to the hold. Payroll glitched for mid-level staff. Complaints rippled up. Legal circled back. This time with a senior partner. We propose a settlement conference, he said, voice laced with concession. I agreed. But on my terms, virtual, recorded, ledger in hand. The call opened tense. Faces on screen. Counsel. CFO proxy. HR head. No Elena, telling. They probed. What figure resolves this? I laid it out. Line by line, $180K in deferred comp, plus interest per state law. Compounded. Verify against audits, I said, sharing screens of logs they'd signed off on years ago. Silence stretched. Heavy. The partner cleared his throat. We'll need time. Post-call. I walked Central Park. Leaves crunching underfoot. Mind racing. Emotions welled. Relief mixed with residual hurt. This wasn't just money, it was acknowledgement. Meanwhile, Thompson Advisory hummed. Client demos. Pipeline building. Referrals snowballed, drawn to my unencumbered expertise. Days later, another ripple. Apex delayed a product launch. Citing internal reviews. Whispers in industry chats blamed compliance bottlenecks. My old team felt it, delayed bonuses eroding morale. One messaged, "Miss your steady hand." I replied kindly, but distant. The coil tightened, pressure mounting toward the inevitable burst. 2 weeks in, the facade cracked wide. A direct call from Apex's CFO, Victor Lang, rare for him to dial personally. His voice, usually booming in earnings calls, carried a weary edge. Mark, let's cut through this. What will it take to close the book? No pleasantries, just pragmatism. I sensed the board breathing down his neck. Quarterlies looming with unresolved liabilities. I didn't rush.
paused.
Let the silence build like thunder before rain.
Then,
Methodically, full ledger settlement. Bonuses,
equity.
stipends, plus statutory interest. Verify via independent audit.
He sighed.
Audible. That's substantial. It's contractual, I countered, calm but firm. The clause echoed unspoken between us. He promised a proposal by end of day. It arrived, a draft agreement, lowballing by 30%. I countered with evidence, board minutes approving my deferrals, emails confirming promises. Back and forth ensued, each exchange ratcheting tension. Emotions surged in private, anger at years dismissed, pride in my foresight, but outwardly stoic. Amid this, Thompson Advisory flourished, secured a third client, a logistics firm ditching Apex's clunky systems. We prototyped in days what took them months. Satisfaction bloomed, creating without chains. A former colleague jumped ship, joining as junior partner. Your exit shook things, he confided. Exposed the rot. Apex's woes deepened. Stock dipped 2% on operational headwinds rumors. Legal pushed harder. Another call. Concessions upped. We'll meet 80%, they said. I held firm, citing precedents, court cases on deferred comp and mergers. The air thickened. Breakthrough nearing.
Then,
The panel invite. Tech Governance Forum in San Francisco. Topic: Merger pitfalls, hidden liabilities. Irony peaked. Victor slated as co-speaker. I accepted, flying out quietly. The auditorium buzzed with suits and screens. Introductions rolled. I stepped up, spotting Victor's flicker of shock. No words exchanged. Moderator dove in, risks in transition clauses. I spoke evenly. Overlooked mandates can cascade. Locking systems until resolved. Victor shifted. Answers evasive. Q&A hit. Lessons from recent departures? He muttered about diligence. I nodded silently. The room felt the undercurrent, my presence a living case study. Post-event. He approached hesitantly. Mark. I cut short. Ledger speaks. Walked away. Heart pounding. Back east. The proposal revised. Full amount. Wired within 48 hours. I reviewed. Signed digitally. The wire hit $247K.
clean.
No fanfare. Just closure. But as funds cleared, a deeper release washed over me. Not triumph, but equilibrium restored. The burst came subtle. Apex's Q report noted one-time settlement expenses, stock stabilizing. Thompson Advisory announced partnerships. Drawing eyes. Clients migrated quietly, drawn to efficiency. I didn't boast. Let results whisper.
Yet,
Lingering, was this justice or just survival? The question hung, a moral echo in the quiet. With funds secured, the aftershocks rippled. Apex restructured quietly, new compliance head, system overhauls. Whispers credited the Thompson Clause as catalyst. I didn't engage, focused forward. Thompson Advisory expanded. Office space in Brooklyn. Team of 5. We tackled projects Apex botched, AI integrations for e-commerce giants. Seamless and swift. Emotions evolved, from hurt to empowerment. Evenings. I'd reflect on the journey, the slow erosion of trust, the methodical build of safeguards. It wasn't heroic, it was human. Mornings brought client wins, laughter in brainstorms, the joy of unhindered creation. A month later, an industry gala in Chicago. Elena attended, our paths crossing at a networking bar. Her eyes widened. Mark.
I
Didn't expect. I smiled faintly. Life pivots. She apologized vaguely. Things got complicated. I nodded. No bitterness. They did. We parted. A chapter closed. Apex stabilized. But scars showed talent exodus. Client churn. My firm filled voids. Ethical poaching via reputation. One exec confided, "Your exit exposed cracks we ignored." Validation. Quiet and profound. The narrative shifted internally, from victim to architect. Friends toasted my masterstroke, but I downplayed. It was preparation meeting opportunity.
Yet.
Doubts lingered. Did I exploit or enforce? The mouth-wan nod. A human knot. Growth accelerated. Revenue tripled in quarters. Hires doubled. A speaking gig at TEDx on corporate resilience, shared lessons sans specifics. Audience resonated. Empowering, one said. Inside. The slow burn of past fueled forward fire. As year-end neared, Apex's annual report glossed over transition costs. I read it detached. A spectator now. Thomson Advisory's holiday party buzzed with promise, team toasts, future plans. In the glow, I felt the release, not revenge, but rebirth. But the question echoed, in a system built to forget. Who defines fairness? It lingered, inviting reflection. The new year dawned crisp over the city. Resolutions unspoken. Thomson Advisory hit milestones. Major contract with a Silicon Valley upstart. Systems I dreamed of at Apex now reality. Team dynamics hummed. Collaboration without politics. Innovation unfettered. Personal life steadied. More time for runs along the river. Dinners with friends who'd stood by during the storm. Echoes from Apex faded, but occasionally surfaced. A lawsuit rumor, unrelated, but tied to merger flaws I'd flagged years ago. I smiled inwardly. Seeds sown bore varied fruit. No schadenfreude. Just observation. Mid-spring. A direct outreach. Victor. Via LinkedIn. Coffee? Off record. Curiosity one. We met at a neutral cafe. He looked worn. Post-crisis. Your clause. Brilliant, if disruptive. I sipped coffee. Necessary. He nodded, admitting oversights. We undervalued continuity. No apology, but acknowledgement. We parted amicably. Bridges mended? Perhaps not, but understood. The firm thrived. Awards for agile consulting. Features in tech pubs. Clients praised. Mark's vision cuts through noise. Internally, I mentored, passing torches without hoarding. Emotions settled. Gratitude for the push that propelled.
Yet.
The core mouth-wan persisted. Loyalty's fragility in corporate America. Stories like mine whispered in forums. Cautionary tales. I contributed anonymously, advising diligence over drama. Summer brought reflection, a solo trip to the Adirondacks. Hiking trails mirroring life's twists. In solitude, I pondered, what if I'd stayed silent? Eroded further? The path chosen affirmed agency. Back. The firm scaled. International clients. Hybrid models. Personal milestone. Mentoring a young Elena-like protege. Full circle. As autumn leaves fell. A final echo. Apex acquired again. Clauses scrutinized anew. My legacy? Embedded lessons. In the end, it's not about the freeze or the funds, but the human spark, resilience amid betrayal. What price loyalty? The question hangs, eternal, urging us to ledger our worth.